So, finally had an idea for what I can do to make video content for this channel. So what I'm going to do is watch one movie per day and then make one video per day about that movie, reviewing it, talking about the movie, stuff like that. So, we're a movie channel now. So today I watched Uncut Gems, the Safdie brothers' latest movie, and it was pretty nuts. So yeah, let's talk about it. And then we'll just cut it right there. Uncut Gems is the second big movie from the third biggest brother direction duo in Hollywood, the Safdie brothers. Going into this movie, you are expecting a couple of different things. The Safdie brothers have become known for a kind of gritty, ultra-realistic view through their movies. Just an unrelenting pace. Something is always happening. There's never a dull moment. You're expecting that. You're expecting Adam Sandler in a dramatic role, which is something he hasn't done in a very long time. It should go without saying at this point, there's going to be spoilers for the movie, potentially. So, if you care about having this movie spoiled, maybe stop watching for now. So the movie, it picks up pretty quickly. Pretty fast what you find out is Howard, Adam Sandler's character, is a jeweler for high-end clients, celebrities, very wealthy people. He loses some money that doesn't belong to him, and he is going to spend the entire rest of the movie trying to track the money back down, because he knows if he doesn't get that money back, the person he owes it to is going to do something bad. The whole movie is just following Adam Sandler's character as he tries to navigate all of this. So I think the first thing worth recognizing is Sandler does give a phenomenal performance in this movie. Honestly, definitely one of the best performances I've seen in a movie that's going to be in this year's Oscars. It was a phenomenal performance from Sandler. If he wins an Oscar for it, I'm not going to be surprised. Definitely will get a nomination nod for it. This movie, it really was everything it was built up to be. It was nuts. From the very beginning of the movie, it's just action. Sandler's always on the move. Sandler's always trying to do something. You never get a moment to stop and think about it up until the very end when it all falls apart. It's amazing. You would think that a movie like that would be exhausting, but that was not the case at all. It kept you engaged, it kept moving it along, but it almost made you feel like every scene in the movie, you're just wondering, how's this going to go wrong now? It created for a very interesting atmosphere when you watch this movie, because it always had you on edge. You didn't trust anyone around Sandler, even though a lot of scenes were innocent or nothing necessarily bad was happening. You still felt on edge. You still felt like something wasn't quite right the whole movie up until the resolution. I think that just goes to how talented the Safdie brothers really are, especially in the writing department. The writing in this was great. They had Sandler and some other known actors, but a lot of the people in this movie weren't necessarily actors. You had Kevin Garnett, you had Mike Francesa, who's a radio host out of New York. You had The Weeknd in this movie. All of them actually gave pretty good performances. I think it goes to credit the Safdie brothers and their phenomenal writing on this whole movie. Another thing, though, I do want to talk about, because it surprised me how much I liked it, was the soundtrack to this movie. Whatever you're picturing in your head, that's not it. No, seriously. The soundtrack to this movie, it feels more like an aquarium soundtrack that you would hear when you're like walking through a tunnel and there's all these lights and fancy colors playing all this, new agey, techno-ish music to set the mood. That's what the soundtrack for this whole movie was. And it was a very interesting choice that I wouldn't think would work if someone told me that this is the kind of music they're going to be playing, because it's a very intense movie with a very almost calming soundtrack. But it worked out really well, which of course is credit to the amazing composer Daniel Lopatin. Overall, I think this movie is a very strong runner for the Oscars. For Adam Sandler for Best Lead Actor, most likely you got the Safdie brothers for Best Direction and probably Best Original Screenplay. You most likely have the composer in there for Best Original Score. The cinematography on this thing was beautiful. Uncut Gems is going to be all over the Oscars this year. Wouldn't be surprised if Sandler takes it home. Obviously, there were a couple of things in this movie that weren't great. There were a couple of bits of ADR that were pretty obvious, but it wasn't necessarily bad. You very rarely saw his mouth. It was mostly the back of his head, so it wasn't really immersion breaking, and it didn't really matter overall, but it was noticeable. Overall, definitely enjoyed this movie. I would give it a pretty strong 8 out of 10. It could win some Oscars. Uncut Gems. Good movie. Yep.
Happy New Year, Xbox.